Good morning. My name is Arinda Meer and I'm from the city of The Hague. As the United Nations General Assembly kicks off in New York, the world's attention will once again be drawn to the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But in The Hague, these goals are always top of mind. Home to more than 200 international organizations, high-profile NGOs like Amnesty International and UNICEF, and Europe's largest cybersecurity cluster, The Hague is a heaven for social enterprises, non-profit organizations, and impact startups from around the world. My speech will discuss how The Hague has become a global beacon of peace and justice for companies, where companies are able to do well by doing good. First of all, a small anecdote about The Hague and what is my personal connection with The Hague. So my personal connection with The Hague started at an early age. Born abroad, but having my grandparents living in The Hague, made us visit The Hague every summer. And I have great memories of those summers in The Hague. It's a really friendly city, nice people, and surrounded by parks and beaches. After my studies, we moved abroad again, and I lived 9 years abroad. And 2 years ago, we moved back from Washington, D.C. to The Hague again. I was pleasantly surprised by how The Hague became a really international community. There are so many people dedicated on working on topics like peace and justice for every day, and so many to work together and find partnerships. So this makes me all a proud resident of The Hague. So give a little bit of an overview, where's The Hague? I'm not sure if everyone knows where The Hague is. So the Netherlands, there is Amsterdam, but The Hague is where the Dutch seat of the government is based. The Netherlands is the gateway to Europe. We are a very connected country with the port of Rotterdam and Schiphol airport there. We have in The Hague, we have 500,000 people living, 50,000 are expats. We have 6 universities in a region, well-known universities, and 85% of the Dutch people speak English. So that's a bit about The Hague, to give you a bit of a background. Yeah. So social good is in our DNA. Since the first International Peace Conference in The Hague in 1899, the Dutch seat of the government has become a global beacon for peace and justice. We received world because of our leadership in justice. This resulted in the establishment of the International Court and a Court of Justice in The Hague. Former Secretary General of the UN, Boutros Ali, once said, "The Hague is the legal capital of the world." Today, more than 200 international organizations are based in The Hague. And The Hague is a social enterprise network, includes 135 of the world's most respected NGOs, like the International Red Cross, Amnesty International, and UNICEF. And The Hague also hosts quite a lot of UN-related organizations, like the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and an International Organization for Migration. And we recently welcomed UNOCHA, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Data in The Hague. And of course, we have Europol and OPCW in The Hague. As social good is in our DNA, we're not surprised that it's also on the rise. In 2016, leading business schools from the US, Europe, Asia, and South America published a study called the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. The study confirms something we already knew for quite some time: social entrepreneurship is on the rise. In fact, more than 1/3 of new ventures had social good as their focus. So how to do well by doing good? In The Hague, we are guided by a major mission, and that's doing good for the world. And that's why I'm here to talk about today. So as a city, we support all the NGOs that are doing good and work on sustainable development goals. But we also encourage and motivate companies to do good. So how does a company do well by doing good? To answer that question, we created Impact, an initiative to make sure social good startups in The Hague find success. Impact is a rich network of services for startups and scale-ups. There are 3 major things a social impact startup needs to be a success: a place to innovate, resources and advisors to help accelerate, and venture capital options to get funded. So how are we organizing this? Well, we support the sector with the challenge of innovation. We know it's not always easy because it's also a matter of budget. So that's why we recently set up an initiative, the Hague Humanity Hub. So it's a community, a place of peace and justice innovators. By having diverse parties such as the World Resource Institute, UNOCHA, Mercy Corps, think tanks, universities, and startups all under one roof, we stimulate them to collaborate on innovative projects. For example, also Humanity X is part of the center, and that is focusing on big data for peace and justice initiatives. So how can I use in a responsible way the data for peace and justice? Well, next to this, we have also one of Europe's largest cybersecurity cluster in The Hague, at the Hague Security Cluster, Delta. This brings a lot of innovation in the city too. But the seaside city also welcomes startups from a wide range of industries, including blockchain, urban farming, and virtual reality. So next to innovate, we help them accelerate. So The Hague offers 5 different tech parks and incubators, as well as robust accelerator programs like Yes Delft, that's linked to our technical university, World Startup Factory, and our own Impact City program. And then at last, but not at least, startups and NGOs need funding, of course. While startups in The Hague have access to the unique Proof of Concept Fund, which offers 25 million to help new businesses bring their ideas to market. And Impact City also offers grant writing assistance and counsel to connect startups with grants ranging from $60,000 to $2.9 million. And for NGOs, The Hague is also a very attractive city, as of course we have our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and The Hague is, of the Netherlands, is the 8th largest donor country in the world. Last year we spent around $55 billion on development aid. And then we have also another initiative, the Postcode Lottery, one of the most active donors in Europe. This year it spent around 350 million euros on all kinds of initiatives and projects. So to conclude, we are working hard on all these elements for building a good ecosystem for our social startups and NGOs. So they get our support in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Well, I'm part of the Hague Business Agency. It's also part of the Municipality of The Hague. And we are an organization that helps companies, NGOs, startups establish operations in The Hague. We help and stand ready to help businesses with a conscience and NGOs to find success in our community. We get quite a lot of questions from institutions, organizations abroad, and we are kind of the red carpet to The Hague. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.